Yeah, thank you very much for doing this. You're a hard guy to get a hold of because you're very busy and you're doing like really awesome things. And yeah, I know you probably don't do a lot of interviews either.
Not so many. Yeah.
Yeah, so I already really appreciate that, man.
Sounds good. Yeah.
What's important for me to know about something from your childhood that made you who you are today?
I started playing table tennis at about 12 years old, and played it in a more like a structured fashion, not just in your basement. So I had a coach, and there's a group of juniors here in Maryland that played, competitively. So that helped me kind of build up that sports mentality, and I absolutely loved the sport. And when I went to school at Hopkins, I started a table tennis club there, and then from that we had to do a nonprofit, fundraiser. So we decided to run a tournament, and we ran a 4-star tournament in the U.S. as a larger size tournament, and it just completely sold out. So it got me into doing events, and then from events we met a lot of different brands from the sport table tennis that kind of led us into where we are in the equipment business.
Gotcha. Yola was it started in 1950?
Yeah, 1952. It was a German company. It's been known to be one of the best table tennis companies in the world. We had sponsored the Summer Games in 1996, 2000, and 2004 as official table.
Gotcha. You were brought on as president. Sure you probably had a lot of other opportunities that you could have pursued. Why Yola?
So in 2006, that's when we decided to become their distributor. It was a partnership. They were going to sponsor our events, and in turn, they needed someone in the U.S. to help represent their brand. So when we took it on, Yola was nowhere here, and a lot of the equipment mix was missing to be able to reach the American consumer. So we started from the sourcing level and built up products for the U.S. market. And as we did that, we were able to grow the business to be larger than the German business. And so over time, the owner there was getting to be a little older, and he was ready to retire. And we were the best choice to acquire them. So in 2019, we acquired the Yola brand from Germany.
So what company were you a part of before?
So we were here at Yola North America originally, and the current name is called Sports Squad. We also do game room products and some other like foosball, air hockey, those type of products as well. But Yola is our primary business.
What did it mean to you to be like offered that opportunity to like take on the German side of Yola and just like the organization as a whole?
It was very exciting. I think we had a lot of ideas and vision for what we felt could be the Yola brand to be even stronger and better. And the opportunity to take over the global brand gives us a lot of opportunities, just like what we've done with Pickleball. And us entering the Pickleball market has been just amazing. We absolutely have been super excited about what we've been able to accomplish here.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. You guys came in, was it 22?
Yep, last year, April.
Yeah, 22. The things that you guys have accomplished, and of course, there's like a lot of the obvious stuff, right? Like you signed the number one player in the world, and then you have also like the hottest paddle on the market, and you've like built a reputation around that. You've also sponsored a lot of like the top players. But it's also like from things I've heard from other people, like when I talked to Jorge Vatajan, who owns the Pickler, he said, yeah, we got like a partnership with Yola, and they're going to be providing like the paddles and some of the gear. Yeah, you guys have accomplished like so much from like being an outsider to a degree. Like, I don't want to say like beating out the legacy brands, but when you look at the legacy brands, you're like, why would they able to offer this to the community? So like you guys are doing it like very like impactful way. And it's very intentional. It's very awesome to see. What are you most excited for Yola in like the upcoming year and upcoming years?
Yeah, definitely. What you talked about it's not just about selling a paddle. We look at ourselves more than a paddle company. We feel like we want to be immersed in sport, and there's so many different parts of it, and we want to be able to support wherever we can help out with. So, partnerships with clubs has been a huge, exciting part for us. Partnership with Lifetime. Where do people start to play? And those are the places we want to be involved with. What I'm most excited about Yola is that we just got started. I think we feel like it's only been a year, and we've had some great partnerships with players, with associations, with influencers like yourself. And I think it's so exciting to see a sport grow as fast as it has been. So definitely, we just feel lucky to be part of it.
Yeah, I think the sport is also very lucky to have you guys a part of it, because I feel like you have elevated a lot of like expectations, right? Like the paddle, but also the way that you treat players. Like you brought on, I don't know who started it. It doesn't really matter who started it, but I feel like you guys made a really big impact when you like signed. You didn't just sign a number one player. You signed a bunch of like people who might not be the best player, but they have a huge impact in the community.
Right.
And like you said, like connecting with clubs and connecting with like people who are influential in different like social media mediums, which is like great to see, right? And I feel like it inspired other brands to do the same. Like, oh, well, they're doing this a different way, which is cool.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys did in table tennis too?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of these strategies, we've been doing it in table tennis for a very long time. And I think what we've learned from table tennis, it really helps us kind of navigate what we're doing in pickleball, because it's also table tennis was also a sport that really no one recognized as a sport. And so we've had to do a lot of things to try to figure out how to convince the public or convince anyone to want to use our products, let alone play the sport. So with those strategies and with those concepts, we've taken a lot of it from our experience in table tennis, and it's done worldwide for us. Like in Europe and also in Asia, we do a lot of this similar stuff where we are investing in players and supporting them and making sure that as they move along in their own journey as an athlete, that we can be part of that journey to hopefully see some success from them.
Yeah. When I talk to Colin, Anna, Ben, they all have like this really, really like cool perspective that it's not just like receiving support in terms of like a monetary value, but it's like one thing that a common word that was used is like we're with a brand that's global, and that has like a big impact on like how they can see the sport, how could they envision their own career. How do you, when you say like supporting players, how do you do that? But aside from like financial.
Yeah, obviously financial support helps, but like one of our CMO Tom Wynn, he's always advocating to just that we're all family. Like whatever they need, whatever support, we're there to help them. And if it's whether it's something at a tournament where they just need to grab a drink. Those are little things that we're there to support them if we're there. So we've been traveling to a lot of these tournaments and kind of supporting them wherever we can. So we definitely have more of a family perspective towards our athletes, and they're really part of our family.
That's really cool to feel, and just like for you to say, I don't know if it necessarily comes from the fact that you've born, raised, and lived in Maryland, but I feel like Maryland, they look out for their people in a lot of ways, and they kind of keep it like low key, right? It's, if you were maybe a corporation or like a company from another like big city, it might have a different perspective or like a feel. And like when I met Tom, man, I met him at like MLP, and I honestly didn't even recognize him. I was like standing watching, and he's just like, "Hey man, are you Brian?" I was like, "Yeah, how do you know me?" And he said we had met like years ago back when I was doing MMA, and we just knew the same people who ran in the same circle. Yeah, and the way he treated me was like I was like some like Yola athlete. He's like, "Yo, just come into the player stand with me, grab some food," and he like gave me a vision paddle, and it like that combined with when you talked about how like partnering up with Lifetime, you want to be at the places where people are starting to play pickleball. It formed a very memorable experience for me. Like, I'll never forget that. And like, Tom also looked out for me. He's just like, when I talked about the idea about building pickleball, he's like, well, I was talking about to like kind of validate my idea, because that's ultimately what I was looking for. But instead of like validating, he's just like, dude, just give it a try. Because he had worked on similar projects on his own, like developing an app and all that. And he's just like, dude, you'll never know unless you just try it. And like, I credit him with a lot of the reason why I was able to start what I'm doing now, which is super cool.
Yeah, I think the people are what make the company who Yola is today. And I think it's important for us to find people that are wholesome and really personifying what our brand is about. So we have 140 some employees now worldwide, but we still have that entrepreneurial spirit and that feeling that we want to connect to everyone in the sport on a personal level. So I think that's kind of different than maybe some other brands or other sports or even sizable companies. But no matter what, I think for us, it's that personal connection that we can make with everyone.
Where did that come from?
Again, scrappiness in the table tennis community. I mean, we used to go and visit table tennis clubs all over the country, and we weren't the top brand at that time, and we just made relationships. And who knows if a relationship will become a partnership in the future? But we made a huge amount of friends, and we felt like this was the best way for us as a company to really get to know everyone else. So and over time, things change, and we have opportunities.
Yeah. Before Yola, if I'm understanding correctly, the German side wanted you guys to take them on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is someone who believed in you guys, believed in what you were doing. Is there someone else in your life that you credit to believing in you, and why and how it attributes to your successes? President of the business and also forming relationships.
I think I've always had the support from my family. They definitely have been there. When I told them, hey, I'm gonna start a table tennis events business. Well, it was crazy in their mind at first, but it was something that was missing in the sport at that time. So definitely them giving me the opportunity to say, hey, they didn't want me to do this, obviously, but they said, all right, just follow your heart, do what you can, and we'll see what happens. So definitely the first years where we were just kind of scrambling and just doing what we can to try to save a buck so we can make a buck. Those years definitely taught us a lot about business, and I think those kind of experiences are so crucial for entrepreneurs and people who want to try to do something in business or anything they want to try to accomplish.
Yeah,
so that definitely helped out quite a bit.
What else do you think is important for entrepreneurs to know, given the experience that you've had?
Making mistakes is probably the best thing that can happen to you. Failure, if you look at it as a failure and just give up, okay, but some things don't always work out, but you got to learn from those experiences. And then what you learn from it, you're never going to make that mistake again. So that in my opinion is the key to just being successful. Just keep on trying hard and making mistakes and having a positive attitude. That's really important.
Yeah. There's 4 years from now, people are looking at Yola. What do you want people to take from what Yola's done for the sport?
We want to position ourselves to be one of the best pickleball brands out there. Definitely, we feel that people feel that they're connected to the brand. It's not just they're buying a paddle or they're buying a shirt from us or a bag, that they feel that they're part of the Yola family as well. And that's done in many different ways from our perspective. But I think from a player perspective, them feeling like we have things that they need, but they can also learn about the sport from us. I think for me, it's just feeling that they're part of our family as well. Whether you're just beginning or you're Ben Johns. I think everyone can be able to experience Yola in a good way.
Yeah, it's definitely a great outlook to have on the experience with the brand. Take us back, when back to when you were devising a strategy to enter into the pickleball space. Like, what was going through your mind? Like the discussions that you had with the team.
Yeah, that was a fun time. It was really interesting because this is a brand new space for us, and we had just started playing ourselves and learning about the products. And honestly, when we looked at the pickleball space, we really felt that we can make a difference through our experience in table tennis. Some of the products we make with the paddles that we have, we felt that some of the technology that we have can translate to pickleball. So, in our experience, it's not just having the best equipment, right? It's also being able to get people to want to buy your product. And the opportunity to partner up with Ben Johns was almost like luck, because I had gone to the YMCA to learn pickleball, where I met a coach, Eric White, and he's actually part of our team now. And he knew Ben from many years of playing pickleball. So
the guy looks like a pirate.
Okay, yeah, you can call him a pirate. Yeah, that's fine. And I've heard many other things, but yeah, pirate is a good way to go. But yeah, we connected, and I think Ben apparently was our neighbor, so he's local. I mean, he lived half a mile from me. So he also played table tennis at the Maryland Table Tennis Center, where that's where I grew up playing table tennis as well. So I think that made a very interesting connection, and we got to talking, and it made sense for both sides. So that was pretty exciting.
A lot of people have already talked about Ben. Not that you can never run out of stuff to talk about that guy. He's contributed a lot to the sport. But for me, honestly, like Colin is I feel like is a very exceptional player. Without the rankings, you just see the way he plays. If there's no points,
well, he's number one in men's doubles.
Yeah.
He's got the ranking.
If that was never existed, just like watching him play is very. For me, it's very entertaining. Like, what went into that decision to sign him, and what's like the expected outcome?
Colin individually is an exceptional person. I mean, I think he's definitely reaches a different part of the sport that Ben doesn't really reach into. And I think he does a lot more coaching. He does a lot more things with different organizations for developing the sport. And he's just an amazing player too. So I think we're excited to see where this partnership goes. He has the Collin Johns Scorpius signature paddle, and we're excited about seeing how that does. But he was also instrumental in helping develop that paddle. So the dimensions, the ratios, everything that was important to him, we also worked on it together with him.
Yeah, I remember I asked Tom, a long time ago, a long time relative to pickleball. It's very I think the last year. But I asked him just what goes into your decisions about choosing the sponsor players. And one of the things was just what does the person give back to the community? And you're right, Colin. If you look at a lot of social media posts, rarely ever do you see a lot of posts about him playing, but rather who is he talking to? Remember, he was at the National Tennis Association, the Junior Tennis Center, or something like that. And he's doing camps and clinics. Why is that important to you guys?
I think the development of sport is very important. But for us, working with players or working with coaches, there is a customer journey for everyone in the sport, and we want to be part of that as much as we can. So whether they're a coach, whether they're an influencer or a player, there's things that we can do to help each other. But yeah, Colin, I think he's going to have some very influential opportunities in the sport, moving forward. I think just having him, not just as our player, but an advisor and someone we can bounce ideas off, I think that's just a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, because he gives that player perspective, but he also gives a very strategic perspective too. Yeah, very
But I think between Ben and Colin, I think most important that they have is the family structure behind them that supports them. I think mom and dad are amazing. I think Hannah's amazing. What they have as a family and that cohesiveness that they work together on everything, and they're just great people. I think I just really enjoy always working with them, talking about different ideas and concepts. So that's been a great opportunity that you don't get with every single player. That they have that family aspect that's also helping support them.
Yeah, it's like you just can't help but see like Vin Diesel, like family's everything.
Right.
But no, it's like great to see because that's like the most in terms of like pickleball, words that are synonymous with pickleball is community, and that's like also just family. I know you mentioned that you don't look at mistakes as like regrets, but what do you think was maybe like the most challenging time that you've experienced over the past few years or over your lifetime, or something that you think may have like been a mistake or regret?
It's hard to look back that way, but we probably should have jumped into pickleball earlier. We had the opportunity 4 or 5 years ago. Mike Squires is our chief revenue officer. He always pitches some ideas to me, and many times I find them a little bit crazy. I think he pitches to me 5 years ago, and I kind of brush it off, and I think that might have been a regret, but I think timing is everything too. Maybe passing it up at that time, we might have come in as more of a generic brand. We didn't really have the understanding yet. And then this time, when we thought about it again, it was the pandemic. We had played it for a few weeks and like tried to really understand the sport a little bit more. And then the really interesting part was that time, the first time we went to play, we were in a court next to these pros, and they were like, hitting really fast. Like we didn't even know what a dink was called or a speed up was, and we see them like just going at it, and then we go up to them like, "Are you guys pros?" They're like wearing some cool clothes and everything, and like yeah, we're pros. And then we found out actually when we got home that we were talking to Ben Jones and Collin Johns. So that kind of situation was like, well, that might not have happened 5 years ago. So,
yeah.
There's, looking back, I regret for not getting into the sport earlier. I think we could have definitely gotten started earlier and just be part of the sport earlier. But who knows? Like this might have never happened in this way. So, yeah.
What drives you?
What drives me?
Yeah.
I really have a passion for the sport right now. I mean, I love playing myself, but I feel like I really want to be able to be at the forefront of technology for the sport. Being able to work with all these pro players too gives us a leg up as well. And we have a team of engineers as well. One of our lead engineers is based in Brazil. His name is Fabio. He's definitely brings a lot of the theory behind what we need to put together. Definitely Ben brings a bunch of ideas, being such a good player, knowing the materials already and being a materials engineer, that helps. And we have a team of 30 employees in China that's in the business, understanding sports and manufacturing, and that's been built up from our table tennis side. So we've been able to pull some of those resources over, a lot of those resources over at this point to really help us continue to develop the brand.
I feel like manufacturing, just at least on the paddle side, just because that's just the area that I've been talking most about lately. It's like such a big aspect. Like I talked to Daryl Wang, he's the founder of Vatic Pro. Mm-hmm. He's only 25, but he's like a Chinese background. So his dad was in manufacturing, and then him and his dad got into the paddles, but his dad, he was talking about the process. He was just like, usually when you deal with a Chinese manufacturer, if you're from America, you need someone to translate, and you need that intermediary. They were able to remove that, which was cool to hear.
Sure, that definitely helps. I'm also fluent in Chinese, so that's been helpful for me for many years. But yeah, there's a lot to learn about OEM manufacturing, sourcing from China. And there's a lot of brands out there that's getting some interesting products out of China. But yeah, it is wild to figure out how to pick the right partners in China and be able to make the products, because a lot of this stuff it's hard to make here in the U.S. The U.S.'s manufacturing base is very limited now. It's either high tech or it's sometimes just too expensive to make things here. So that's why there's definitely opportunities for many companies to do things in China.
So we won't see Yola bringing the manufacturing to the U.S.?
No, we don't actually do any of our own manufacturing. We do have engineers that we create specs and sometimes our proprietary manufacturing methodologies to a partner, and then we work with them to accomplish what our concepts are.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's very interesting when you say like you're fluent in Chinese. It's like growing up, I remember people like, if you want to learn any language, it should be Chinese, Mandarin, because they're like, it's the best language for business. And it's funny just to see that coming like full circle, and it comes back now. Talked about it like at the beginning of this, how successful you guys have been, right? And the imprint that you've left on the sport. How do you measure success?
How do we measure success? I think for me, it's when I go in the evening to play pickleball after work at the courts, and I see Yola paddles everywhere. I'll start counting. All right, today looks like 3/4. All right, it's a good day. But when I go out there, and maybe today is only half. Like, what's going on? So that's almost like my own like measuring stick that I have. But there's definitely many ways. But for me, that's where I think the passion comes through for what I'm trying to accomplish here. That when I actually go out and play, that I'm proud of what we're doing. That people are actually enjoying our products.
Yeah. You have kids, right?
Yeah, I have 4 kids.
Yeah. You don't have just kids. That's a lot. What do you think is important for them? Like when you envision them growing up and your time has passed on this earth, how do you want them to remember you?
I think I want them to remember me as a supportive dad. Yeah. Really, they need to follow their passion. And for me, at first the plan was I wanted to be a doctor, and then I went to Hopkins and I was studying biomedical engineering. Then, I didn't really like it that much, and then I kind of fell more into the computer science and materials engineering side. So, and I think that path was, pushed by mostly parents that say, hey, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer. So that's what's imprinted in your head. But what do you really enjoy? So my opportunity to really build something in sport table tennis first, and then take it to where I am today, that's been because I followed my passion. I think definitely I want my kids to do well, but I don't want to force them into anything that they don't want to do. So when I'm gone, I just hope that I've prepared them for what's necessary for them to succeed.
Yeah.
And again, success can be measured any way. Like, as long as you're happy, as long as you can provide for yourself, I think that's at least what's necessary.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Is you just said like that they kind of follow their own path, that you're not steering them in any one direction, but instead like standing by them instead of behind them. So,
absolutely.
What advice would you have for future founders? Can I ask this?
Yeah, kind of. We've talked a little, but I guess again, entrepreneurship is so fun for me at least, and you definitely have to have an appetite for making mistakes, and there's a lot of I think financial learning that everyone has to go through, but I think business is super fun for me. I hope more people get involved in sport and in business overall.
Yeah, agreed. That's it, man. I don't have anything. It's just
no questions about the construction paddle.
I'm sure they all covered it, and you're probably tired of hearing answering that question. But I'm just grateful that I got to get to know you on a personal level, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. Like, thanks for you, Tom, the entire team for like.
So how did you start to play pickleball?
I was living in Austin, still living in Austin, but it's like always happening down the street. But I just like never took the time to go out there. But then my buddy, he has a house in Chicago, Mexico. It's like 40 minutes north of Puerto Vallarta, and there's like a gated community. They have like some courts. They have like one pickleball court there. And as soon as I played, at this point, I was retired from professional fighting. I had my 5 years in it, and I like was living in Rockville, moved to Austin, tried to like went through like some serious depression, trying to figure out like what's my direction in life. Not saying that pickleball is my direction. Maybe now it's kind of turned into that, but I tried my hand at a lot of different things, and I just needed like a physical outlet. I needed something to like focus my mind on. I needed something to like, have drive and passion towards. I just have like a massive like insecurity for like failure and just not accomplishing things, and I needed something to give me that like sense of accomplishment, but also just meeting people. And I knew that like if I'm constantly out doing things on my own, that I would never like grow to be like a person with that I'd be like happy with, right? Like, but if I surround myself with people like that are just supportive of me, then I can have like a more like flourishing life. So I've met like a lot of people through the sport. Of course, like people like you two, which is really, really cool, like meeting founders. I think like subconsciously I started building Pickleball to gain confidence in like starting a business myself, because I get to ask you guys the questions that I like have about starting a business. So yeah,
that's exciting. Everyone's journey is different, and I think that's what's great about this sport. It just brings so many different people from different walks of life, and I think having that common passion connects people so well. And that's great that you're part of it too.
Yeah, it's the crazy thing that I never thought like would happen for sure. Like a sport that's hitting a wooden wall.
Yeah.
You meet like wild people. You could like one day you could be playing with a 9-year-old, or you could be playing with like a 70-year-old, and these are probably two people you wouldn't talk to like out on the street.
Right.
But then you meet them and you're like, oh, this is really cool. Yeah. But
that's great.
Yeah. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Yeah. Thank
you
very much.
Yeah.
Damn.
Exciting.
Awesome.